Greetings and welcome, Ninth Age community. Thank you for watching my Ninth Age Battle Report, subscribing to my channel, and following me. I especially appreciate those of you who have been commenting. Your insight is always valuable for me growing as a player and to any other Ninth Age players who are watching my battle reports. I'm hoping that we can all just be a community that will learn and grow from each other, become better players, and most importantly, just learn how to have fun with the game of Ninth Age fantasy battles. All right, welcome. This is a Ninth Age battle report from the Abraxas League. I might have talked about it a little bit back in January or actually December when the Abraxas League started. Back at that time, but I know I didn't keep up with it because I got caught up in team tournaments, so I didn't make battle reports for all of my games in the Ninth Age Abraxas League. Anyway, Barca set up this league, and we played an elimination round to figure out, basically, to situate players into their proper standings. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more at the end. But anyway, we're now in the regular season. The elimination round is over. I'm in the regular season, and I got paired up against Just Flow for the first round of the regular season. Just Flow is from Germany. Nice player, nice guy. He is very active on the forums. He does the stats for Ninth Age, I believe. He keeps track of a bunch of things, and he collects like how many armies participated in tournaments, or especially like what units were used throughout the year in tournaments, and then they take all of the data he collects, and that's how they refine the point changes at the end of the year. So I feel privileged. Had the opportunity to play Eisenheinrich a couple weeks ago. I forget, maybe that was for the Cassis tournament, and now I get to play Just Flow. So now I actually feel like I'm playing like players who are integral to the Ninth Age like system, like the main volunteers who make Ninth Age work. So anyway, I'm still playing Emperor Sonstal, but I'm using a different list. We're gonna go over that shortly. And Just Flow played Dwarvenholds. I had a bad game against Dwarvenholds the last time I faced them. This is my new list that I'm playing. If you've been watching my other battle reports, you notice it is a lot different, and that is because, guess what? There's no flagellants. Yep, I love flagellants, but I decided I needed to take a different route because of what the meta is doing. So I'm just gonna walk through it because this is the first time I'm showing my list to people. So I have a Wizard Master with Alchemy. That mostly is because I really struggled with army list that had lots of armor in games in the most recent tournament who ate my wings. So I went with Alchemy. I'm on an Arcane Engine, which is my old reliable, but this time instead of distracting, I actually took the Foresight Engine, which gives me lightning reflexes. More on that later. I also took Magical Heirloom so that I would just get that fifth spell because I don't have any other magic in this list. So I actually end up with 5 spells and a bound spell from the Arcane Engine. I have 6 spells and I channel 2, which is decent. My general is a martial on foot, great weapon, black steel, winter cloak, mantle of Olhur. If you're not familiar with winter cloak, black steel, or mantle of Olhur, as they are empire specific, black steel gives +2 armor when you're on foot and fear for 45 points. Pretty nice. So all the marshals come basic with plate armor, so I have a 2-up armor save and I cause fear. Winter cloak gives distracting, which is nice. A 5-up Aegis save and a 2-up Aegis against flaming attacks, all for the nice price point of 70 points, something like that. And Manta Volhur is not used very often, but Manta Volhur reduces, well, it doesn't reduce agility by 1. It removes the agility you get for charging within 6 inches. So if I get charged by a unit, normally when you charge, you get +1 agility on the charge. Manta Volhur takes away that benefit. So my Marshall BSB, I took standard. I just went real basic because that's what a lot of other Empire players are doing, so I decided to do that. I did take Death Warrant. Death Warrant means if I hit in close combat, then other units in the same combat get battle focus, which is nice. And I decided to try an Inquisitor. It's not the same type of Inquisitor as other Empire players are playing because it's not mounted, but I felt I needed something to fight enemy characters because I've also struggled with that in previous games. So I have an Inquisitor with paired weapons with supernatural dexterity, which means I have offense 8 and agility 8. Essence of Mithril gives me that 2-up armor save, Dragonfire Gem because there's a lot of flaming attacks going around, and Blessed Steel, of course, is what makes the Inquisitor so good with D3 wounds and lethal strike, and +1 strength. So it's 3 attacks, strength 5, AP2. I took 2 artificers with long rifles. I'll talk a little bit more about them later. 46 heavy infantry with spears. I know people were playing big blocks of halberds, and I was really super tempted to make this a halberd block, but I wanted to see if I could make it work as a spear block. I know spears are only strength 3, but I get fight in extra rank. So my basic strategy with the spear block is to deploy them 8 wide in line formation, and then I actually will fight in 5 ranks because I can give an order as Empire players to fight in additional extra rank. So 40 strength, 3 attacks, AP 1 or 2 if they get charged isn't too shabby in my mind. And I have a standard bearer banner of speed, more on that later. 2 units of light infantry with crossbows. The champions do have long rifles. And in special, 27 Imperial Guard with great weapons, banners of speed. And then I have 2 cannons because the rockets and mortars really let me down over the last several weeks. So I went back to cannons. Just the way the meta's going. I like taking mortars, and I tried to put a mortar in this list, and I just ended up it kind of came down to the Inquisitor or a mortar, and I decided the Inquisitor was more valuable than the mortar. So we'll see. I'm just trying it out. A lot of new things with this list. I've never used crossbows. I've very rarely used Imperial Guard and never in such numbers. I've never taken Artificers. I've never taken a Master of Alchemy. And I've never taken Inquisitor. So a lot of new things that I get to play with. Um, Tricks of the list, the Artificers go in the crossbows to give them ready aim fire, so they're always accurate. I have 2 long rifles then in each unit, so I can snipe things. They crossbows, of course, then go nearby the cannons because the artificers work as engineers, so it makes my cannons hit better as well. And then I have banners of speed on my 3 main combat blocks. And if you're not familiar with Empire, I can give an order at the beginning of a turn, which gives +1 advance and +4 march. When combined with Banner of Speed, that means that on any given turn, I can make any of my 3 main combat blocks have advance 6 and or march 14. That's right. You don't need Banner of Relentless March when you play Empire. Just take a Banner of Speed, give them an order, and you can march 14 every single turn with foot troops. That's my list. I went up against Dwarven Holds. This is also a very unique list. I'm just gonna talk about. I've very briefly played dwarf, so I could talk a little bit about the special rules. I'm mostly just gonna say I was scared of the Hold Guardians because I knew that even with my big Imperial Guard, I was not gonna be able to handle a Hold Guardian in the front. So I needed to reduce Hold Guardians from range because I can't face them. And honestly, I knew also the Greybeards with great weapons. I wasn't really going to be able to handle them either. You can see that 30 Greybeards with great weapons is more expensive than 27 Imperial Guard with great weapons. I mean, a lot more expensive. 685 for Greybeards, 540 for Imperial Guard. Imperial Guard are 20 points apiece, so if I had 30 Imperial Guard, it would have cost me 600 points, which is still less than the Greybeards. So, um, and he has a lot of magic, right? His Runesmith has 3 runes. His Anvil Power, I think, is 3 runes. And then each unit of Hold Guardians has a rune. That's what the Runic Standard of Wisdom does. So he has 8 battle runes. So I knew he was going to have a lot of magic and I couldn't stop him. Alright, on to the actual match. The secondary objective for round 1 of the Abraxas League was hold the center. And deployment was random. You actually, with Abraxas, he only is specifying the secondary objective. Every single every single game, we're actually going to roll a 1d8 for the A maps of the new map pack. So I rolled a 6, so it was map 6, and then just flow randomized the deployment 1d6, and it came up a frontline clash. These are some of my miniatures that I've painted. I haven't been painting lately. I have some pretty busy in my personal life. So I do hope to return and paint more of these, especially my Imperial Guard, now that I'm using them more. All right. This was the map. This is map 6. So, just flow one sides. I kind of wanted the bottom side. But he won the side, so he took the bottom. So that meant I took the top. And what I actually did was I wanted to see where he deployed because he actually has the choice with Hold Guardians to Vanguard, and his small unit of Greybeards have Vanguard, and I forget, does his big unit have Vanguard? Yes, Runic Standard of Swiftness gives his big unit Vanguard. So he can actually Vanguard with both Greybeards units and his Hold Guardians. So I knew that if I deployed first, he could just deploy opposite me, Vanguard, and be in my face turn 2, and I need more time than that to shoot him. So I actually told him, "You drop first. You deploy first." I actually expected him to alternate deployment, and then he said, I guess I'll take first turn." So he dropped for first turn. He deployed like this. You can see he's kind of spread out. But this meant that I decided to deploy hard on the left flank. I didn't want to deploy on the right flank, even though that's a nice wall to defend. With the hill in the way, I wasn't going to be able to shoot his Hold Guardians or his copters, which is what I really needed to kill from range. So I decided it was better to deploy on the left. This way, I was hoping I put my Imperial Guard on the left flank. I was hoping I could just kind of eliminate this smaller unit of Greybeards with my Imperial Guard, run over this flank, and then hit his Hold Guardians in the flank. Meanwhile, this would give me time to kill these Hold Guardians with cannons and crossbows, and his Hold Guardians and Copters on the right flank are so far out of position that I'll have time to deal with some of his units before they can actually come all the way over to the left and deal with me. So that was my deployment strategy, trying to use this impassable terrain so that he doesn't outflank me very easily. You can see I've got the crossbows. This list, it's hard to deploy the crossbows in such a small space, but this is less units. If you've seen my other lists, this is less infantry than my other lists, so it's easier to deploy. It's still tricky to deploy with crossbows, but it's not as difficult. And the benefit of having artificers is that I can literally march away with my three um, blocks. I can march away and just leave my crossbows and cannons where they are. They can operate independently because of the artificers for giving orders. All right, so this is his first turn. He does have rangers. He deployed his rangers here and one on his right, on the right flank. I'll just talk through his list so you know what things are. Like I said, let's go back to the deployment screen. On the right flank, he has a big unit of Hold Guardians. Behind them, both units of Copters. He's got his big unit of Greybeards with both his Runesmith and his Thane BSB in that big unit of Greybeards, which with the standard bearer that they do have Vanguard. Let's just hold the ground. So the middle is within 6 inches, you score objective. All right, and then Hold Guardians, he put in the wood, so he has cover, though he's going to take first turn, so it doesn't matter. And then a small unit of Greybeards on his left flank. My army, I have my big block of spears on my right flank deployed in line formation. I actually put my BSB and my Inquisitor in there. After seeing the way he deployed, I wanted my Inquisitor to be able to fight the Greybeards because this spear unit is the only unit that the spear unit can really only fight these Greybeards. I don't want them to fight anything else. I figure if I keep the Inquisitor near the middle, then if the Greybeards try to come in, I can charge in with the Inquisitor and hopefully kill his general or something. And then, of course, as I said, I have 2 units of crossbowmen here and here. Let me get the laser pointer. Perfect. All right, so we have crossbows with an artificer on the corner, crossbows with an artificer in the corner. Like I said, and then I have cannon and cannon. This way, even if he pushes up to the hill, my cannons can still shoot him. So everything is exposed by the cannons. And then I have my Foresight engine, which gives lightning reflexes, so that my 2 units of Imperial Guard with great weapons strike at their agility, which is agility 3. So, all right. So he vanguarded and he moved forwards. Our audio cut out a little bit, so this is actually what it looked like after he did all of his vanguards and moves. He does have rangers on my right flank, which I didn't really anticipate. I almost put a crossbow unit and a cannon on my right flank just to shoot stuff that came into the middle. But I decided they would be too vulnerable. He could just push his copters and hold guardians forward and take them all out. It'd be easy points for him, and I decided it wasn't worth it, so I just kept them in a bunker on the left side. Uh, yeah. But of course, that means he doesn't have to worry about any units. He can just come into my left side. So, I don't know. It is what it is. He has cover now from the field in the middle. This is like a perfect scenario for him. He can just go sit up in the middle and grab that objective. But of course, if he sits in the middle, I get to shoot him, right? So he has to keep his scoring units in the middle, which is kind of good for me. He is got rangers in front, which gives some cover to his hold guardians, and then, as I said, his other rangers on the right flank. I'm worried they're gonna be able to shoot my cannon. All right. Then Magic Phase. With all of his bound spells, I mean, let's see, let's go through his spells. So he has, with Dwarf bound spells, he basically replicated, right? He's got 4 different variations of negative Wonder Wound, because both of his Hold Guardians took the spell that gives negative Wonder Wound for attacks on them. And then his Runesmith took negative Wonder Wound, the Rune of Gleaming, which gives distracting and hard target, and the Rune of Revocation, which ends all buff spells, enemy buff spells. And he took those same spells on his Anvil. Something I didn't realize until halfway through the battle was that the Anvil can only cast spells within 36 inches, which means he wasn't going to come forwards with these Greybeards because then they were going to be outside of range of the anvil, although the anvil can move, I believe. Maybe I should have put my spears behind the hill, but then again, his whole guardians could just come into me. So yeah, I could have. Nah, I was happy with my deployment. I think I deployed well. All right. So anyway, with bound spells, he's got so many duplicates. Like even if I would like dispel one, he would just cast the same spell again on his unit, and I would have to let like he got spells off. I don't know how to stop someone who takes this many duplicates. So anyway, he got negative Wonder Wound on both of his Hold Guardians and his Greybeards, and then he couldn't shoot me because crossbows. Um, well, he probably could have shot me, but it would have been sevens. Oh no, he marched. He marched with his crossbow, so he couldn't shoot with them. And he doesn't really have that much shooting in this list. I knew it was very close combat oriented, so I deployed that way because I knew that in close combat he would run over me if he was at full strength. So on my turn, like I said, I pushed forward my left flank 2 units of Imperial Guard because I want to take out his right flank. So now I'm zoning him, right? He can't bring his Honed Guardians in close enough to my middle without getting charged in the flank or the front by my Imperial Guard, which is good. I then pull my spear block. I actually move backwards a few inches just to give cover to my cannon so that his rangers are not going to be able to shoot my cannon. So that's good. And I don't move my crossbows at all because they have unwieldy, so they suffer -2 to hit if they move, so they're just situated there. But now my Imperial Guard are out of the way, I can kind of shoot past them into his middle. Oops, where did I go? Let's see, I moved. All right. Then I did magic. I think I got a Quicksilver Lash off on his Rangers. I'm not I think that's all I got off. I didn't really get that much off. Magic first turn. Then I did shooting with both cannons shooting at the whole Guardians. My cannons hit on 3s because of the Artificers within 6 inches. And even with -1 to wound, I still wound him on a 3. We had a discussion about that. That -1 to wound spell is real nice on dwarves. It means that even though I technically would wound on a 1 because a wound never wounds, I only wound on a 2, and then the -1 to wound then applies to the 2, so I only wound him on a 3. But I rolled actually very well with my cannons, and I actually did. I took out 2 models just from the first turn. And then my crossbows were trying to shoot up his rangers because they're in the way. So, then it is his turn. So, he is flying his copters over to support his left flank because he doesn't need them on the right flank. And he just turns his whole guardians. He turns. his Greybeard so that now that I move forward, he can actually shoot me with his throwing weapons. So there's that. Um, that's basically it for movement, right? Dwarves are kind of slow, except for that initial Vanguard from turn 1, which because of my deployment I was able to minimize. So spells, again, he got off -1 to wound on both units. It was kind of that, either let that through or distracting. And honestly, with hard target, my cannons have a chance of missing. I'd rather be able to hit with the cannons and then be able to wound, have a chance to wound. Because if he's hard target, I only hit him on a 4. I'd rather hit him on a 3 and wound him on a 3 than hit him on a 4 and wound him on a 2. So I had to let that spet through. Unfortunately, because of -1 to wound, that means my crossbows aren't going to do a whole lot against the Greybeards, which is real bad because he's got cover from the field and he's got -1 to wound, so it's real hard to wound the Greybeards. My plan, yeah. Let's see. The screenshot's not showing. Oh, all right. And then he did throwing weapons. He actually took out 5 Imperial Guard, which was rough. Whew. Throwing weapons are no joke, folks. Alright. So then it's my turn. Oh, yeah. So I charged here. So I charged my Imperial Guard into the ruins. I took like another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I took another like 6 wounds from the dangerous terrain. Or maybe it was like 1 from throwing weapons and 5 from dangerous terrain. I rolled a lot of ones. So that was unfortunate because sometimes you go into dangerous terrain and you don't roll any ones, and sometimes you roll 5 ones. So that was unfortunate, but then I just support with my foresight engine, so I am going to strike first. And I actually then pop my Inquisitor out on my right flank so that now his Rangers are in trouble. He can't really do much with his Rangers. He's going to have to move them, otherwise my Inquisitor is going to go in there and just wreck face. So there you have it. Magic wise, I do I think silver spike on his copter, and I get it off, but I only do 1 wound because it does D3 wounds and I roll a 1. Uh, and let's see, and then shooting, yeah, and then shooting, I'm able to wipe out his rangers here. Uh, and then I'm able to keep doing a few wounds to his Hold Guardians. So, in close. Wait, where are we? And then in close combat, oh, you can see I killed a couple Greybeards, but they stayed. And they were able to keep whittling me down. I think I only won combat by 1, so not ideal. Alright. Then it's his turn. He is still advancing. He's kind of waiting for these Hold Guardians from the right to move up to get into position. And otherwise, he's just sitting here. Honestly, I didn't really know why he didn't come forward. I think he thought my Imperial Guard, once I killed 2 of his Hold Guardians, I think he thought my Imperial Guard with my General was going to be enough to actually handle 6 Hold Guardians. But if he would have just pushed with Hold Guardians, Greybeards, forwards, I don't think my Spears can handle the Greybeards. And I'm not 100% sure that my Imperial Guard are going to be able to handle the Hold Guardians either. So, whatever. I felt that he was playing. He just kind of sat in the objective, so he's gonna win objective, win that secondary. But I'm just gonna shoot him up. So he gets a -1 to wound off, and I stop his other spells. Close combat. I am able to win combat again, but he stays, and we're starting to really whittle ourselves down. He's down to like 4 or 5 Greybeards, and I only have 7 Imperial Guard left. I kind of expected to mow right through that Greybeard unit, but 15 Greybeards are no joke. Let me say that. My movement, I really tried to get this middle Imperial Guard unit to the wall, and I couldn't quite do it. And because I couldn't quite do it, I just angled for a position. I was certain he was going to charge his Imperial Guard or no, his Hold Guardians into my Imperial Guard. And then I was afraid he was going to wipe him out, and then I wanted to be able to countercharge with my Pure Guard. So I just moved him here and kind of stayed back because I didn't want to be charged by the Greybeards either, and I couldn't quite get behind the wall. If I was behind the wall, if I could have gotten to behind the wall, I would have, because that was my original plan. But I wasn't able to do that. He had moved his rangers back, so I just popped my Inquisitor back into my spear unit. I might have, on hindsight, I'm thinking this was a mistake. Maybe I should have just kept moving my Inquisitor to attack the Rangers, but I was afraid then that I would run face first into the Hold Guardians and I wouldn't be able to handle them. Though at that point, I'm still like distracting the Hold Guardians, so maybe it would have been worth it. I'm not really sure. Magic wise, between cannons and um, crossbows and spells, I'm able to take out some more Hold Guardians. So now he's really getting whittled down. Actually, this is magic phase. So I kill another one just from Quicksilver Lash. Um, and then shooting, I take out a whole another two Hold Guardians from my shooting. That was cannons mostly. And then my crossbows are firing at the Greybeards just to try to whittle them down. Now, I think this is what prevented him from charging. Now that he's only got 3 Hold Guardians, yeah, he could go in there and probably kill my Imperial Guard, but I'm just going to be able to countercharge with my Imperial Guard and wipe out those 3. 3 Hold Guardians are not going to cut it at this point on the front line. I actually win this combat, his Greybeards run away, and I rolled a measly 3 inches. Luckily, I didn't lose any Imperial Guard in the dangerous terrain, but I am down to only 5 Imperial Guard out of 27 that started. So, um, yeah. I think it was. I'm trying to think if that was good. Earlier in the game, it was actually good that I didn't win combat because it blocked his whole guardians from charging in on like turn 3. But there we have it. So what does he do? At this point, he pulls his 3 whole guardians back because he knows he can't engage me, and if he keeps coming forward, I'm just going to shoot him out of the water. So he actually is trying to pull his whole guardians away. His Greybeards and other Whole Guardians are now on the scene, though, and now I have a bit of a situation. His Whole Guardians are close enough to. They can literally charge my Spear Block, they can charge my crossbows. They're a little far away to charge my Imperial Guard, but I'm not going to be able to handle the Whole Guardians with my Spear Block. So I have to figure this out. Let's see, spells. He gets -1 to wound off on his small unit of Hold Guardians. He's trying to save their points. I have to kill one more to get points for them. As of now, I don't get any points for them, even though I've killed 5 Hold Guardians. So there we have it. My turn. I move. I try to get in contact with the wall, and I actually still can't do it because I haven't been issuing the march order. I probably could have because if I issued the march order, I could have gotten in contact, but I kept issuing the fight in extra rank because I wanted to fight in 3 ranks. These Imperial Guard charges Greybeards again because they rallied the previous turn, but I wanted to finish them off and get those points. And now that his whole Guardians turn around, I'm not really worried about anything on this left flank so much. Although his Greybeards technically, actually at this point they can't see me, so I'm fine there. So there's really no threat of countercharging, except for the copter. And oh, did we already do it? I thought I had a screenshot. Okay. Uh, where's his turn? All right. His whole Guardians actually on his turn. I apologize for this. On his turn, his whole Guardians charged. Or no. It's coming up. Alright, so I move my Inquisitor out to this wall. So I'm defending the wall. I was trying to block his whole Guardians from charging my spears. From this position, they can just barely squeak through and get into my spears, but at least they can't charge my crossbows. So I don't know. Maybe I should have been more aggressive with her and moved her right here so that my whole guardians would be unable to charge the spears. But I decided I was fine with her where she was because really I don't want her to fight the whole guardians. I want her to fight. I want to try to get into this Greybeard unit and try to kill his general. So, yeah. And then between magic and shooting, I'm actually able to get a ton of wounds to his Hold Guardians, which was clutch. I was super worried about him. Even with 5 Hold Guardians, he still could do a lot of damage to my Spear unit, but it's a lot more manageable at this point. So, Close combat. We actually, let me think. Do we tie? We either tie. I don't think we tie. No. I actually lose combat. But I have discipline 9 from the general, and I put steady men, so I've minimized roll. And I see here I rolled 2, 3, 5. So I stay in combat against his graybeards. They're no joke. I didn't do any wounds because of his -1 to wound, so that helped him a lot that turn. All right, on his turn, this was very sad. Um, oh, I forgot to mention. All right, he on one of his turns, he had his copters. He flew his copters into the ruins. He took dangerous terrain and he lost a whole copter from dangerous terrain, so he had to take a discipline test. He then proceeded to roll an 11. He was within 6 inches of his graybeard, so he could re-roll it. He re-rolled it and he still rolled like another 10 or 11. So his other copter fled. It took another wound from dangerous terrain. So that was clutch, because if his copters were in the ruins, they could have just killed my Imperial Guard from shooting and or killed my mage. So that was like huge that that happened, and that should not have happened. Well, now on his turn, his whole guardians charged my spears. They rolled a 2. They rolled a double 1. They were like less than, we think they have movement 5. I think they needed a 7. Maybe even less. They might be less than 12 inches from me. And he rolled a double 1. So they they didn't make it in. He had also charged his rangers into them. So you get the flank charge and then 5 whole guardians in the front. It's still a favorable combat for him, even though I killed a lot of his whole guardians on the previous turn. Because without the Inquisitor in there, I just don't actually do that much damage, I don't think, with the spears. So that was super lucky that he failed. I don't even know how the battle would have gone if his whole guardians had made it into my spear block. So at this point, he pulls his whole guardian, these whole guardians back, and he pulls his graybeards back. He At this point in the game, both him and I, look, he's got 3 objective markers. There's no way I can deny objective or win objective, so he's got the objective locked down. At this point, he's just trying to save points. I actually lose this combat, but with the BSB roll, well, I failed on the first roll, and then with the BSB, luckily, I was able to roll a 9 or less. So I stayed in combat. I did a swift reform, and I reformed to face him so that I could win against his rangers. Um, yeah, of course, I think he could have. Oh no, no, yeah, because he had the wheel, he now can't really charge past these impassable. So, what else do I do on my turn? Oh, this is what I do on my turn. So that I move my Inquisitor forwards to chaff his whole guardian so that he can't charge my spear block in the flank. And then I push my Imperial Guard forward. I also charge my Arcane Engine into his Greybeards because I've had enough of those Greybeards, and I'm actually afraid they're gonna defeat my Imperial Guard this turn. I do take a 1 wound from dangerous terrain, but no big deal. All right. I can't cast any magic spells because I'm in combat though, so I just try to get buffs off. But he actually dispels my buffs. I forget. I had a bad first roll. Yeah, I tried to cast something. I think I tried to cast a Word of Iron with 3 dice, and I needed like a 9, and I rolled a 6 essentially. So that put me behind on dice, and then I was 4 to 5. So then I tried to cast, I think, Know Thine Enemy, and that failed. He was able to stop that. So no spells went off on this turn, which is unfortunate because I really need the spells to be able to fight Greybeards. But my impact hits wipe out. I rolled 5 impact hits on a d6. I wipe out the Greybeards from impact hits, which save this Imperial Guard unit. It is reduced, so he gets half points for this unit at this point. But at least I've gotten full points for his Greybeard unit, and I've really kind of tied up this left flank. Well, it's the left flank, but it's middle of the board left flank. So anyway, our blinds have kind of switched. I I win combat against the Rangers, but they actually hold, so that's sad. Alrighty, his turn. What does he do? Oh, that's right. So he pulls his whole Guardians back. Um, I think just trying to save points. He tried to charge his Greybeards into my Pure Guard. He was 14 inches away. He needed an 11. I decided that 11 was kind of risky because if he makes it into my Imperial Guard, he will kill them and then he'll overrun into my wizard and kill my wizard. And that's not worth the points. So I flee with my Imperial Guard. He rolls to redirect into my wizard, which he succeeds, and I stay, but now he's 1 inch further away, so he needs a 12, and I decide to stay because it's just super unlikely that he's going to roll a 12 on his charge. That is kind of a risk, but I decide to take it. 11 I'm not going to take, but a 12 I'll take, right? And then he gets a double -1 to wound off of his Greybeards. I let those through because I know at this point I'm not really going to be able to uh, kill the Greybeards through shooting. And he chaps my Imperial Guard with his copter, so I'm not even going to be able to charge into his Greybeards with my Imperial Guard. So I don't care that he buffs his Greybeards. All that does is stop me from shooting them with my crossbows. Um, yeah. The real points are to be had in both units of his whole Guardians. So, let's see. That's just to zoom in to show the angles. All right. So on my turn, I actually defeat the Rangers. And they run off the board. Or actually, I think I just wiped them out, which was good. So I reformed. I pushed them forwards. I charged my Imperial Guard into the copter just so I get the copter points. My Imperial Guard on the left failed to rally. They kept running. It doesn't really matter. They stayed on the board, but doesn't matter. They're fleeing and they are decimated, so he gets full points for these Imperial Guard. I move my Arcane Engine out of the ruins just so I can cast spells on the whole Guardians on his bottom right. And then I push my uh, Spear unit forwards just to provide that BSB 12-inch bubble. And I charge my Inquisitor into the rear of the whole Guardians. This was the other move that I'm not sure that I should have done. I really wanted to charge the Inquisitor into the Greybeards, but at this point it's the last turn, and he's just gonna, if I issue a challenge, he's just gonna accept with his champion, and then I'll kill the champion, and nothing will happen. So I decided I would try to charge into the whole Guardians. I hoped that I would be able to kill a whole Guardian from with the close combat attacks, and then I hoped I would survive and with a rear charge and doing like 3 wounds, I thought maybe I have a chance at breaking him. I guess he would still be steadfast. Yeah, so I guess that was I wasn't thinking about steadfast, so that was the issue. If he wasn't going to be steadfast, I think that was a better play. Anyway, magic. I'm actually able to between I think it's Quicksilver Lash. I actually kill a whole Guardian from this bottom unit. So now he only has one left, but I didn't. Well, I was trying to finish off the unit. Yeah, I was trying to finish off the unit. And then on this turn, I didn't mark it, but when it gets to shooting, both of my cannons misfired. I didn't misfire at all the whole rest of the game, but this turn I misfired on both. So they obviously didn't hit or wound anything. Um, my long rifles in this back unit. Long rifles are out of range of this whole guardian on the bottom. The other unit tries to shoot him with the long rifles, but he survives. So he survived with this lone hold guardian down here, and then in close combat, yes, I killed a hold guardian with my inquisitor, but between the attacks and the stomps, they were able to kill the inquisitor. So he got points for that, and of course I killed his copter, and that was a game. So I ended up killing 1,640 of his points, and he killed 810 of my points just for the one unit of Imperial Guard. That's 540, and my Inquisitor was 270. So I was doing the math. It ended up being a 9 to 11 loss for me. I was doing the math after the game to decide if I made the good decisions. Um, if I don't charge my Inquisitor into his Hold Guardians, that's 270 points I save, and it ends up being a 10-10. If I, instead of prioritizing killing this other Hold Guardian unit down here, and instead trying to kill the bigger one, instead of charging in, if I just try to get point, I could have gotten half points off of it from shooting and from magic, then that would have been an 11-9 win for me. So anyway, just those are just little micro things to think about. And because I haven't played with these units and I've never played against Hold Guardians before, I don't really know these things. But now I know, don't charge Inquisitors into large infantry. They're not able to handle it. I probably should have just charged her into the Greybeards, because I actually would have won combat. He just would have had like a rerollable Discipline 9, but he technically could have broken too. So whatever. It is what it is. So that's a 9 to 11. I was really happy with the way I deployed, and pretty happy with the way I played up until like I said, there were just a few decisions I made that I probably should have made a different decision, but you only learn those things by playing. I Yeah, I kind of knew from the beginning with our lists I wasn't going to be able to push objective very well unless I was able to shoot him, and he had so many bounce spells I wasn't able to do as much damage as I expected from shooting. So it is what it is. Anyway, this is actually, so these are the league results. So I'm going to try to keep you updated as I move through the league. So I'm actually I'm at the bottom of the league. I'm in the 7th bracket. Uh, there's only 7 brackets, and then there's 2 different sides of it. So I'm in 7A, and there's also a 7B. So there's technically 14 different groupings. And if I do well in the 7A, I can move up to, I think, 6 or maybe even 5 for the next regular schedule. As you can see, this is running through all the way through July. You have 2 weeks to play each game. Everyone actually in my group has already played match 1, and I've actually already scheduled my match 2. So I'm trying to get that played, because I'm going to be very busy for the next 2 weeks, but I'm trying to play some games right before then. And with my 9 points, I'm kind of sitting in the middle, right? So there's someone with 16, someone with 15, someone with 14. Then, of course, Just Flow has 11. Then he got off of me, and then I'm sitting at 9. And then there's someone with 4, 5, and 6 below me. It's only one round in, so it's nothing really to worry about. I'm actually trying to take this a lot more competitively. I didn't actually take the elimination rounds that seriously because I was involved in the team tournament, and I just can't focus on so many different games at once. So now that I'm out of the team tournaments for a little bit, I'm focusing on this league and hoping to work my way up with my new list. The other thing I didn't mention earlier, but the unique thing about this league is, so we're playing 7 rounds. Actually, there might be a break. Sometimes there's a break, right? Because there's only 6 of us, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, yeah, there's 8 of us. Okay, there's 8 of us, so you actually play 7 rounds. And then you have 1 week where you're off. You don't technically have to play. Or 1 2-week session, you don't have to play. So you play 7 games. We're actually allowed to use up to 3 different lists, but you have to play each list twice. At least twice. Otherwise, you lose points. So technically, I could submit other lists and use them if I had an inkling of what my opponent was going to play. I could technically make a list and play against him, but I'd have to use that list against someone else. And in my experience, it's better to just stick with the list and play the same list rather than play a new list. I know some of like the really good players switch a list every couple of weeks, and I guess they know how to play a list right from the moment they build it, but I don't. I have to play a list 3 or 4 times before I actually figure out how to play it. So switching my list around in this league is not going to benefit me. I'm just going to stick with this list for the time being. If I really hate it later on, I at least will be able to switch it if I want, but for now, I'm gonna stick with this. So there you have it. That is my battle report from round one of the regular season of the Brazos League. Thank you for watching and supporting me. Let me know what you think of my list, of my deployment, of how my opponent played, and I look forward to seeing what you have to say. Take care.